The time is now 27 minutes to 8. The Crime Prosecution Service has produced a disturbing report dealing with violence against women and girls. It says the number of prosecutions has reached record levels. Is that because the number of crimes has increased, or that public awareness has led to more crimes being reported? Alison Saunders is the Director of Public Prosecutions, and she's with me. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
What's the reason?
Well, we know that these crimes have always been underreported traditionally. So,
how do we know that, just before you move on?
Because we know that from talking to groups such as Women's Aid, Rape Crisis, who deal with women, that they have not always come forward to report them. Partly because we did a small survey of why rape victims might not come forward. Part of it was because they feared being judged, they feared not being believed. Also, I think with domestic abuse, sometimes people felt that it wouldn't be taken seriously.
So that is changing now?
That has changed, I think, considerably, and that, I think, has added to the public confidence amongst victims in coming forward, reporting their crimes, knowing that they will be taken seriously, and if there's sufficient evidence, the cases will go to court. And you can see from the figures, there's been more cases referred to us, more charges, more prosecutions, and more successful prosecutions.
No, more successful prosecutions overall,
yes,
in proportion to the number of charges being brought.
Yes. So again, it's the attrition rate from the time of the actual reporting, or indeed before reporting, is getting better. And across all the strands, we are seeing, apart from rape cases, we are seeing an increase in the conviction rate.
So those who believe that in many cases the complaints are simply vexatious or mischievous or whatever word one wants to use, that simply is not the case. That doesn't happen.
It happens very rarely in relation to rape cases. We did some research a couple of years ago now, which found that vexatious, sort of false, malicious claims are very rare indeed. Where they are there, we will prosecute them because obviously it's extremely serious and it has really life-changing consequences, but they are very rare indeed. So
to what extent has the internet changed things? Cybercrime has...
Well, that's a theme that we're seeing across all the strands, that sort of social media is playing an increasing role. So people are using social media to harass victims.
But is that an offence in itself?
Yes, it can be. So, for example, in one case, we prosecuted somebody who had formed a relationship with a woman. She had not responded to one of his emails, and he then showered her with 700 abusive emails and messages.
Is that assault?
Well, it's harassment. It's not assault, but it's harassment.
Does that fit into this category of assaults then? I mean, when you say more...
Yes, it will do. So
you don't actually physically have to attack somebody in order to be charged with assault?
No. Well, harassment we would have charged him with.
Quite so, but but you'd include that in the assault category?
In the violence against women, yes.
In the violence against women?
Absolutely. And we're also seeing social media used to enable crime. So making friends with somebody on Facebook, pretending to be somebody you're not, grooming somebody, so that you then arrange to meet them. At that point, they're in a vulnerable position and they are then attacked. And we've certainly seen cases of that too.
And that everybody can understand. But isn't it a bit more problematic when you are dealing with people who are effectively just being hugely offensive on the internet?
Well, no.
I mean, maybe entirely distressing, of course. I completely understand that. But nonetheless, there is a difference between being offensive and physically and violent.
But these are being harassed. People are being harassed. It causes certainly alarm and distress to individuals. They feel they can't get on with their lives. I mean, the impact of harassment is fairly major.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But I wonder whether that is perhaps one of the things that influences this figure, because the impression one has looking at this report is that there are many more women and girls being physically assaulted, and that may not necessarily be the case.
I think it's both. Certainly when we look at the domestic abuse, the majority of those will be physical abuse. We do have the new law of coercive and controlling behaviour coming into domestic abuse, and of course that may not be a physical assault, but that will be coercive and controlling behaviour, which can be just as debilitating for an individual if they're suffering from that.
Right, but overall, and this may be oversimplifying it, when we look at these figures, we cannot reach the conclusion that Britain has become a more violent society, that more men are attacking more women.
No, and of course the figures do include assaults and offences against men too, although it's termed violence against women and girls, it will include offences against men too. So, but it may just be that there are more reports.